Hi, welcome to Gender Nebulous. This is me, Freda Wallace, and that's
Victoria Hodges.
come on, Victoria, keep up.
That's
This
like
is
who am I? A thing.
that thing over there. Am I pointing in the right direction? I don't know. That's Victoria, and this is episode 19, is it?
This is episode 9.
Wow.
We've almost hit the big 20. I can
Yeah,
imagine.
we're almost in the we're almost mature.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're stretching it a bit there, Freda, when you say we're mature.
Right. Yeah, nice to be back.
Nice to be back. We've only been away for about 3 hours.
Well, you know what I mean. Back on Sunday, because this is going out Sunday, isn't it? We're doing
Sunday
now is
today.
we're doing a live thing during the week when we can. Probably not
Probably
every
Thursdays. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're doing the Sunday thing as a record because I know sometimes I'm working, so it makes more sense to do it as a recording.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what
So
what
some lives, some recording.
it's a bit difficult for me to say what have you been up to because I spoke to you yesterday.
Yeah. What have I been up to? Well, I've been to work today, working from home. So I've had a really, industrious morning doing my work.
Well, you work
And,
hard.
now
You work hard for the money.
I do. And it's payday today, so that makes a bit of a bonus.
Oh, well, the Milky Bars are on you.
Milky Bars are on me.
I'm treating myself to Gary Barlow's.
Gary Barlow wine. So what kind of wine is Gary Barlow's wine?
Well, whatever you said, I didn't mean it. I just want to get you pissed. It's it's horrible, to be honest.
What kind of wine is it? Is it red or white? I can't tell. It looks like red.
It's a white. What's it say? I don't fucking know about wine.
Is it white? There's
white.
nothing in the bottle.
It's white wine.
Oh, it's white wine.
But it's the only thing I look at when I buy wine is the percentage and the price, and then I combine those two as a fraction.
So what was the percentage?
as an equation, and
what was the percentage?
11.5. So not.
Yeah, and what was the price?
What's the what?
What was the price?
£7.50.
Okay.
So you know,
it's just the I've not heard of the Barry
Garlow.
Barry Garlow brand of wine before. It's does the bottle sing to you or anything?
I'll let you know. I'm going to go through this while we're doing the podcast.
Okay.
Could it be magic?
Are we going to review the wine?
Let's go round again. Maybe you'll turn back the hands of time.
It's going to be one of those episodes. I can feel it coming.
Well, I'm pouring some now, so let's get on with it. Right,
Meanwhile, I'm drinking coffee.
Oh, you're so boring.
Sorry to be boring.
Are you a real trans woman if you're not a functioning alcoholic?
Well, yeah, you could ask that question. I'm not sure quite how to answer it, but it's a good point.
Shall we ask Sarah?
I do like to have a glass of wine. Yeah, if Sarah, whoever she's.
Wait, mate, Sarah's here.
Oh, there she is.
She's my conscience. Sits on my shoulder.
Is she a Gary Barlow fan?
She's pissed already. What's that? I'm completely bladdered, mate, she said.
Is she a Gary Barlow fan?
She's take that fan, not specific to Gary Barlow. She's more of a Napalm Death fan, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, it's a fascinating start to the podcast today.
This wine's kicking in.
Yeah,
Have you got, one thing we've got to talk about before we get into the meat and potatoes?
Yeah. Oh, yes, the spare. Yes, I do have a copy. I did buy one at my local Sainsbury's yesterday. Now, it's for £14 currently, but if you open...
Are we advertising this? Come on, Harry, send it.
Yeah, Harry, give us some commission. If you open, it's actually 28 quid inside.
I thought you said there was 28 quid inside, then I was going like this. Yeah, where's the 28 quid?
28 quid stuck in the inside cover.
Oh my God.
It's half price currently. I don't know why, if that's just a marketing thing. But
well, the thing about this, right?
I don't think I'd spend 28 quid on it. But 14.
I haven't read it all, but if I was going to recommend this book, I'd say this is Harry getting his revenge on the British press. This is Harry owning
Harry's revenge.
It's a revenge, but it's about him asserting his own story so that nobody can take Nobody can write anything worse than he's already written about himself, and that's the power he's got, because he knows. And I think Meghan knows.
It's his story without any influence from the palace and from anybody else.
Yeah, because people are going to write about him anyway. All the stories in this book could be written by the Daily Mail or the Sun or the Express or whatever. So what he's done is he's made himself his worst critic. Like all these stories, if they came out without his permission, he would hate. But because he's saying now, this is who I am, and if you want to criticize me on the things I'm actually telling you. Now, whether they're 100% how things happened in
that's
real
kind
life,
of irrelevant, really.
it's about owning, because when you live in a world where the press can write anything about you, when the press can, like when dramatists can write The Crown and write you into that story in any way they fancy, the way to be more interesting and captivate the public better is to do it yourself. And what Meghan and Harry have done is turn themselves into that reality TV, more interesting than The Crown, more interesting than news, more interesting than anything anybody else could ever write about them. So we're talking about them based on what they've actually done.
They've done the Netflix movie. Well, not sure it's a movie, but it's like the Netflix series of, talking about what happened. Harry's book. Is Meghan going to put out a book as well?
I hope so. I hope Meghan.
That would be another interesting kind of way of looking at it. If Meghan could put something out.
Well, Meghan said quite a lot.
Could you give her a call and ask her to do that?
Should we get her to come on the podcast?
Yeah, we'll get her on. Yeah, be interesting to see what she's got to say. Really.
Well, Meghan, do you fancy coming on and talking to us about Harry? You're a bit busy. All right, thanks. Sorry. Yeah, it's tried. But
you may want to actually use a real phone when you do that. Yeah. Anyway. So
hello, is that Meghan? It's still no, right? That better?
Oh, yeah, you see, a little better. Yeah, it's a little more convincing.
No, I mean, I think Meghan should run for president of the United States. I honestly think
Harry should run for president of the United States too.
Well, he can't, but
maybe he can if he becomes a citizen. I don't know.
He can. Maybe that's the next.
I think he would have to renounce his British citizenship, but I don't know if you still have to be born there to be president. I'm not sure, but anyway,
there's some mad rules.
I think they were changing that rule.
I think.
But what do we care about that? We don't care about that, do we?
I care about the way that Piers Morgan and people like Jeremy Clarkson were quite happy to embrace somebody like Andrew Tate while absolutely trying to destroy somebody like Meghan Markle. Just tells you a lot about the culture we live in. And if somebody like Greta Thunberg and Meghan Markle can have their revenge on those people, then I'm all for it. 100%, fully paid up. I will back those horses.
Yes, have to agree with you there. Can't disagree. So should we get into the meat and potatoes then?
Yeah,
you ready?
We've done the aperitif.
Yes. And now for the main course.
Is this the main course?
For the main course, the first article for today that we're going to discuss at great length is LGB Alliance activist and former Tory election candidate says being gay is a choice. Now, the person in question here is Alex Bramham, I think his name is Bramham. Bramham.
Yeah, I first heard
used to live in Manchester, but he's left, hasn't he? He used to be kind of a well-known anti-trans activist.
The thing
got kicked out of Pride Manchester a couple of years ago by the police for being obnoxious. Has been kicked out of protests as well.
Yeah. But he's been on my radar for a while because he used to be in Facebook groups for there was a group called Reclaim Pride, and the Reclaim Pride group was really about taking it off the hands of the council again and making it a more inclusive, like more of a grassroots thing, because it felt in Manchester like Pride had been taken away from the community in a way, because there was a lot of money. It cost the people in the village, to go into the gay village in Manchester, you have to pay. They didn't agree with that, and when the whole gay pride thing started in Manchester, it wasn't like that. It was just a free. But I suppose as things become more popular, you have to sort of crowd manage. You have to get you know, more of a management team in to oversee everything. So that's just a victim of its own success in a way, that it becomes so popular that you have to have council meetings and all that sort of thing. But Alex Bramman was somebody in one of those groups who was like, I noticed him being kind of self-destructive in some of the things he was saying. He wasn't trying to make any friends, and I think he's got some. I consider him a vulnerable person. I don't consider him a serious, like it says, Tory party candidate. He was never a serious candidate for anything.
Well, I think they kicked him out as well.
Nobody takes him seriously in
Yep.
Manchester, and he's and Kelly J. Keane, you know, the anti-trans
he was at that demonstration, whatever you want to call it, wasn't he?
yeah, the anti-trans activist Kelly. I mean, she's exploited him to be part of her little crew of about 5 people that turn up whenever she gets a megaphone out. So, you know, there's nothing I can say about him, negative or positive, because I just think of him as a vulnerable individual. And he's saying
in a series of tweets on Twitter, he's been saying things like, he said, being born homosexual is not a scientific biological claim that applies to everybody. He went on to say that some gay men are political homosexuals who choose same-sex relationships out of respect for women. So a bit of a strange thing to say.
I mean, it's a stupid thing to say, because, you know, that whether somebody chooses to be gay is, you know, you choose to come out, maybe. I don't know.
Choose to come out. You're not going to be choosing to be gay. You either are or you aren't.
Yeah, it's the same thing, like, because it diminishes the rights of it plays into the hands of people that hate us.
They try to make it into a thing where, oh, you chose to do this, so it's your fault, kind of thing. But
yeah, so you can't have any kind of
it's your own fault for doing
right. This is what they try and do with the trans thing, because they'll say, oh yeah, being trans is a choice. It's not necessarily, but being trans is a choice. It's just you choose when you feel comfortable expressing it.
Do something about it, and when to tell people, when to transition. Those are the choices. And I think some people who detransition, they found it so difficult that the reason why they detransition was because it became, you know, the surrounding things of being trans, like the hatred and all this political nonsense.
Oh yeah,
is the reason why they detransition in a lot of cases.
Well, I know that feeling, because I went through that process of, you know, coming out when I was at college. When you're in a college environment, you're kind of in a bit of a bubble, I think. But when I actually had to work and in the real world, I found it too hard. It was only later that I forced myself kind of to get myself together, because I knew, like, it's like a breaking point where you think, right, I've got to do something about this, or I'll just be miserable for the rest of my life.
I mean, I've always said that, you know, everybody has that point at which, you know, it becomes the right time for them to do something about it. If you've not reached that point, well, you know, life is.
If it doesn't feel like when you come
out,
got to
be the right time. It's all about timing, isn't it?
When you come out as gay or you come out as trans, whatever, it feels like, the only way I can describe it, it's like you used to be underwater and suddenly you can breathe and you feel relaxed and there's no panic. You know, it's a very physical thing as well, because I used to have a lot of anxiety and a lot of skin problems, and it affects yourself physically. And suddenly I didn't have that kind of asthma, and I didn't have that kind of things happening to my body that were exacerbated by the fact that I was anxious all the time.
So, I mean, it goes on to say that Bramman even doubled down when LGB Alliance co-founder Bev Jackson addressed his claims, calling Bramman's posts very unhelpful. So,
unhelpful is a bit of an understatement.
Yeah. So,
unhelpful. What she means is,
what she said was, stating sexual orientation as being a choice undermines gay rights.
Well, it undermines.
I mean, that's coming from Bev Jackson. You know, don't let the irony slip by you there.
I know, Bev Jackson. I mean, I don't know. What can you say about Bev Jackson? She's one of the people that tried to get me fired. So,
and then he's saying that he chose to be gay, age 19. So, you know,
what, suddenly
woke up one morning, I'm gay today. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know where he moved to, but he's left Manchester. Thank goodness.
Moved to Bournemouth, I think, or something. Well, good riddance, but I feel sorry for the people. No, he's moved to Norwich. I think that's what it was. But I just feel sorry for anybody that has to endure him, because I mean,
I'm not sure why he left. There was something in Pink News recently about why he was leaving.
I don't think he's
I'm
even in
not sure whether it was
he's-
something to do with his boyfriend or something. I don't know, but yeah,
I don't really want to. I mean, I just
don't
think
want to get into that.
I think he's a very kind of mixed up kind of figure, and I don't think he stands for anything. So I don't want. I find it difficult to criticize him because I think he's vulnerable,
He probably is vulnerable. Yeah,
and I worry about him. Right, everything I've seen of him just makes me think, gosh, this is somebody that the media has exploited.
so he's been exploited by all sides. Then I guess.
Yeah, because he's one of them people that will put himself out there, and he's fully able to, be the person some people want him to be. But
Yeah.
then he's, I think he's probably got to that point now where he's not making any sense to himself anymore. He has to keep being controversial to get the same kind of attention. And I think that's what it comes down to. I just think he's got used to being in the limelight, so he has to say something more and more outlandish to get it. So maybe that's where it's coming from with that, but I don't know.
Yeah, a couple of other stories have been in the press this week. Is around the Scottish GRA reforms. So we've got, Tory government's spiteful plans to block Scotland gender reforms would damage UK's reputation, and Kemi Badenoch could declare Scottish gender recognition certificates invalid in the rest of the UK. So what she's trying to do is say that, any certificate issued by Scotland, any GRC issued by Scotland would not be recognised in England. And she's also trying to remove countries from the approved list within the Gender Recognition Act itself. There's a list of countries. If you choose, there's a couple of ways to apply. So if you choose, one of the methods is to an overseas application route. And if you choose that route and you come from one of these countries on the approved list, they automatically kind of accept your gender recognition document or whatever you've got from the other country as, something they will automatically give you an English one. And I think that's minus the medical requirements because it assumes you've done the same process overseas. So they're trying to remove from that list any country that doesn't have the same process as the UK.
Do you think that's possible?
Well, what they're kind of forgetting is that the gender recognition certificate is not the end of the process. The end of the process is getting your birth certificate changed. So if you're going to say that these gender recognition certificates from Scotland are no longer valid, that means the birth certificates that were issued on the basis of them would also be invalid. And then how do you differentiate between a trans person's birth certificate and as another Scottish person's birth certificate? So you effectively saying that all Scottish birth certificates are now invalid in England.
Yeah.
There's so many consequences coming from what they're trying to do. They just don't think beyond their own hypocrisy.
Right. What I'm thinking now is I don't know about the minutiae of all that. I'm thinking, who's Kemi Badenoch? I'm thinking, who's paying? Kemi Badenoch is bought and paid for. She's a lobby group, Tufton Street person. She's when you listen to her speech, she's very eloquent. She's a good orator. She's good. She talks a good talk. So she's valuable to certain interests who are linked. She's linked to the usual kind of Tufton Street people, what they call the New Culture Forum. That's what I was trying to think of. And this think tank pushes the ideas of anti-LGBT rights and anti-Black Lives Matter. They just use Black people in those conversations. You'll see it all the time in some of the right-wing media. They boost Black voices, Black conservative voices, because while they are endemically racist, they don't have any scruples about using somebody like Kemi Badenoch or Dominique Samuels, or there's a few others I could name, and I find it really insidious because she's not saying anything that isn't pandering to the status quo. She's not making any kind of radical, like, if you're from the kind of politics where you know, it's hard for me to speak about because I'm not black, obviously. So I'm sort of speaking as a whole about this idea that if you're from a certain background, your politics are going to go a certain way. So while somebody like what's she called, Abbott, the Labour lady, I forgot her first name now.
Yeah,
she'll get admonished for drinking a pina colada on the tube because the same people that hate her and want her silence, and during the whole kind of Brexit kind of time, there's no black voices speaking up for on the conservative side of things. So they need those voices, because when you can say we're multicultural in government, you can get away with more, even though those people don't represent anything to help anybody on the ground. You know, you could have all kinds of people and say, oh, look, we've got a diverse parliament, we've got a parliament of women, we've got a parliament of ethnic minorities. Means nothing, because the same people are bought and paid for from people higher up who recognize that they can use those voices. They can use that as a tool now. And that's just something I've noticed. I mean, it's not gone unnoticed by a lot of people. You know, there's a magazine that I follow called Geldem, and they did an article about this where they were talking about the rise of the black conservative and what does that mean and who pays for them. And Kemi Badenoch is very much in that stream to me. She doesn't represent anything realistic. She doesn't represent any social justice. She just doesn't represent anything of change. It's about upholding the status quo, and it's really weak. That's what I feel about her. And then when you see articles like this where she's challenging the GRA, she's just working on behalf of people like Michael Gove. That's it. That's the only thing I can think of when I see this. So yeah, little rant there about Michael Gove. It comes to Michael Gove because he's part of the New Culture Forum, and it might sound a bit like conspiracy theory shit, but if you look at Tufton Street and you look at who they're attached to,
yeah, I mean, it all ties back to that. But you know, this story, where they're now trying this other tack with the GRA forms. Originally they were talking about using some clause 35 or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but they seem to have backed away from that idea because they knew it's not going to work. And that was the law where they were considering to, you know, just not approve this, not give it royal consent by using some legal method. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they've kind of given up on that idea, knowing it was too dangerous and it was helping Scottish independence too much for their taste. So they've switched to this other idea where we'll just invalidate Scottish GRCs.
Yeah, but
remove approved countries from the list. I mean, it's like
when you can
couldn't do it that way, so let's try another way, you know.
Yeah, so when you can have, I mean, the Prime Minister of this country is now an Indian descended person, but what does he represent about, you know, ethnic minorities or people struggling in this country?
Not a lot. He's also a millionaire.
And Suella Braverman or Priti Patel or Zagawi Radcliffe, what's his name? I just they don't represent anything of grassroots politics or changing the systemic problems in the country. They just do. They're fully paid up members and perhaps controlled by, you know, without getting too conspiracy theory about it.
But it's difficult to you would struggle to prove anybody's controlling.
It doesn't have to be a conspiracy theory.
It might be linked in with Tufton Street things, but yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't. You don't have to have a conspiracy. You just have a path of power, and these people know they have to say certain things to get what they want. So it's not like somebody's up here going, right, I'm going to pick this person to be the face of this. It's just these people down here and see the shape of the ladder, and they know where it leads, and they know, and because they're so void of empathy, they're so void of any kind of real humanity, they see where they want to be, and they see it as
the tools of the Conservative Party.
It's a career path. It's not about helping anybody's improving anybody's life, is it?
So interestingly, whilst this is going on, the Welsh First Minister, Mark Drakeford, has said that he supports Scotland's gender self-IDing system and will welcome a similar system in Wales. So I thought that was quite amusing that, it's only England which are, turf island.
Yeah, well, it's this Westminster bubble, isn't it? The devolved nations,
So
they're progressive.
I think Wales has the same devolved powers in this regard as Scotland to bring this change forward, but they'd have to get that devolved power first. But the fact that he's even come out and said that, yeah, we would like to do this too, I mean, we support Scotland. That means that Wales would recognise the Scottish gender recognition certificate, and England would do whatever they're doing. It's going to cause a lot of problems.
Would it be controversial to suggest that Wales, Scotland, and Ireland should start a kind of front against?
Well, what I've been saying is that, okay, so you've got the UK, right, which represents those 4 countries, and it was England that wanted to leave the EU. So why didn't England leave the United Kingdom and let the rest of the United Kingdom stay part of Europe? If England wants to leave, they could leave the UK, they could leave Europe and be their own little thing outside the UK, outside of Europe, and that's that. They're happy. And then let the other 3 countries remain as part of the UK and as part of the European Union. I mean, and that would have been a good solution.
The whole Brexit thing is a mess.
It is.
And it's like, and
we're now really starting to see the impacts of these Brexit decisions and how it's really affecting us.
But it's always interesting to note that the same people who were keen to make Brexit happen are coming from the same.
It's interesting how the
places,
kind of like the anti-trans people, are also Brexit supporters. Why is that?
I mean, not always. But
there's a definite correlation between being a conservative, being a Brexiteer, and being a transphobe.
Well, I don't even think it's that like that. I don't think they're anti-trans. I just think they're using certain issues because the public can be manipulated in a certain way by certain issues. So, like, why somebody you could say, oh yeah, this Kemi Badenoch is anti-trans, but she's probably anti a lot of things. She's probably anti-abortion. She's probably anti LGBT plus overall. But you see, the trans thing is where they can get a shoe in the media, because it's like a step in.
What call the wedge issue.
Yeah, because you can't just suddenly go out and say, right, I don't agree with being gay, because that would be completely abhorrent, and they know that, and it is. But if they say, well, what about trans women using women's toilets? They'll see that as a debatable issue. And that's why that's the way they can crack open that little Pandora's box. And that's what they hope. That's why trans issues have been co-opted by the right. It's not because they hate trans people necessarily. It's because they can see they just hate a lot of things. They just hate anything progressive, anything, that they consider to be liberal. They hate anything, and because they're frightened of it. Because I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'd love to get into the mind of somebody like Kemi Badenoch and understand, but sit down with her and say, "Look, Kemi, have you ever tried acid?"
I challenge you. Okay, I'm gonna give you a challenge live on our show here, to actually have that conversation with Kemi Badenoch.
Well, what I might do is
lay down the gauntlet to you, Freda.
I'll get a cardboard cutout of Kemi Badenoch, and we can take some of the words she's said already, and I'll respond to that.
Okay.
And that might give us an insight.
You're going to use some green screens and stuff to make sure it works properly.
Yeah. Could always ask Harry. Harry, what do you think about racism in the United Kingdom?
What does Sarah think about Kimmy?
I think it's fucking terrible.
What does Sarah think about Kimmy?
Sarah?
Yeah, that's Sarah's opinion.
I think Sarah's had too much of Gary Barlow's
fallen asleep. Oh no, that's just
budget plonk. What are we asking?
We're asking Sarah if, her opinion on Kemi Badenoch and the GRA.
Right, she just thinks she's a bit of an idiot. That's that's it. That's it. Really. She's very forthright. Is Sarah?
Sarah, if you ever want to stand in for Freda, just let me know and we'll set something up. Yeah.
People are going to think I'm mental.
No comment.
We've got talking books.
Yes. So that's kind of, concludes our discussion on the Scottish GRA. There's like 3 stories there. Tories trying to stop it.
Yeah,
Wales trying to do the same thing themselves. They've only got a few days left before they have to actually do something. I think they had a limitation of 20 days to do something, which is going to be running out very soon. So
the thing
I'm not sure how they're going to do this. They're talking about using some kind of legal method that doesn't need to go through Parliament. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
The people anti this, all the people that were protesting in Scotland, the whole For Women Scotland lobby group that's funded by Whitehall, failed massively, and they're rubbing they're nursing their wounds now, and I think they want to try and come back with something. Because you remember a couple of months ago, it was all about J.K. Rowling and her women only sexual assault services or services for women, and where's that story gone? Where's that story gone now?
Well, it's vanished. It's just vanished completely.
Because the only function that story had in the news was to be part of this thing. Now,
it was all related to Scotland's independence, wasn't it? And this GRA reform.
Yeah, and they know that there are a lot that they're not interested in helping women. Those people, they're not interested in providing better services, more services. They're just interested in leveraging politically, and Nicola Sturgeon. She's not stupid. She knows exactly what's going on with that. So that's why she doesn't take them seriously. That's why she doesn't address them. If you're going to get your muff out in the Scottish Parliament,
fake muff.
Oh yeah,
what do they call it? What was the word they used for it? It was a
merkin.
Merkin. Where does that word come from? I've never heard that. Before this came along, I'd never heard that word before.
As if there's a word for something like that.
I know. It's like,
do you like my merkin?
Oh God! By the way, Freda, do you own a pair of Crocs?
I do not, and I will never wear a pair of Crocs. Although I know people that do.
Funny Crocs story in the news this week. It was around RuPaul's Drag Race UK star River Medway. I'm not sure which season they were in, but anyway, River Medway has accused Crocs of performative allyship after allegedly dropping out of sponsoring DragCon over fears of backlash from the extreme right. So Crocs, the shoe manufacturer, have dropped out of sponsoring DragCon. Apparently DragCon was down in London the first week in January. I wish I'd known that because I would have probably gone. So God knows what's going on there.
Well, the interesting thing about Crocs is, not wanting to be associated with the right, is the Crocs have worked with Balenciaga, and one of their promotional things was like a sort of heeled Croc, and I think they thrive on this kind of publicity anyway, so it's not gonna detrimentally affect anything. But I understand what the River Medway.
It was like they pull out on the threat of some extreme rights, not liking what they're doing with, sponsoring this event, and they just kind of walk away without even putting up a fight. It's like, performance.
Yeah, I do enjoy anything like this though, where it's kind of, I think
it's really bad marketing from Crocs, because you would think Crocs is something that LGBT community would be probably one of their biggest customers for their product.
The biggest customers for their product is chefs.
Yeah, chefs wear them on quite a lot. I'm not sure why, but they do sell a lot of kind of multicolored and like highly fashionable versions of Crocs.
I think what it is with
Crocs, they're really damaging their own business there by doing that.
Crocs are so ugly they become like a sort of political statement. Fashion. It's like an anti.
That's one of the tweets that she actually mentioned.
Yeah, it's an anti-fashion statement.
She said Crocs are also effing ugly anyway. So.
Yeah, because that's why they have that reputation, because it's like something that's like that was.
Maybe they're comfortable. I don't know. Are they comfortable? You could probably use them in the shower. I don't know.
It was something that was utilitarian. They were just made for a specific kind of
They were just like cheap plastic,
Yeah, there's
injection
nothing.
molded
There's
shoes, weren't they?
nothing high fashion, nothing
Yeah.
coutured. There's nothing that they're totally utilitarian, and that is why they become this thing. Because what if you juxtapose an extreme with a another, then you get a result, and Croc is the result of one of those those pairings of things. It's like somebody an eagle-eyed kind of fashion person has seen the Croc and go, that is so ugly. It's going into the direction of art.
Yeah.
And
I think the reason why they were attacked by the far right is because I'll just read off the webpage here. It said Crocs were featured on the event's exhibitors list for the main stage and were set to offer a limited edition Rupita Gibbets charms, whatever those are. I have no idea. As well as sponsor a children's fashion show on the Sunday. So it's probably the children's fashion show, which is the reason why the far right got involved, I think.
I have no idea what the far right.
Well, at a DragCon event,
I don't get
it. We all know the connections between, what's been going on with Drag Race and all these kind of far right things. Yeah,
I might be missing something here, but I just don't get this far right connection. And the way I see this, it's like with anything, because the worlds of fashion and art like to think they're connected, and a lot of the times they're not. Because, but designers, they always look for that thing, don't they? That is the edgy. There's something that's edgy, and it's like one of the main kind of tenets of art in the 20th century is like you challenge beauty all the time. If somebody says something's beautiful, that is going to become a bad thing, because what art is essentially is anti-fascism, and the idea of beauty is it can have, once you define it and you say this is a beauty standard, so something like the Croc represents something that's anti-fashion and anti-beauty, and and once it has that reputation of being that kind of ugly thing, then that's when a designer will look at it and use it. And I think that's what the Croc thing is all about.
And then on the 3rd of January, the Washington Examiner also reported that people in the US were burning their Crocs in response.
Burn
your Crocs, people. Burn your Crocs.
It's a load of bollocks.
Never owned a pair. Probably never will now either. But there you go.
A lot of the nurses on A&E and doctors.
They do have. Maybe they're just very easy to clean. Maybe that's why chefs wear them.
That's it, because
medicals, because you can just throw them in the dishwasher.
They're all one piece, and you just spray them with water and bleach, and that's
the reason. Then they're easy to clean.
Yeah, nothing to do with fashion,
and apparently easy to burn. So yeah, there you go.
I don't know if they're easy to burn. They're made of rubber.
Well, people in Washington are burning them. So
yeah, people burn anything. The news will say people are burning anything. People are burning fire because they don't agree with fire.
Burning fire.
Yeah, that's always the angle when there's like a controversy. They always try and find the instance where somebody's burning something. The burning issue.
The burning issue. Our last one is quite an amusing one. You've heard of Demi Lovato, right? The singer.
I honestly can't tell you. I'd never heard of Demi Lovato until you mentioned it.
I'm surprised. But anyway, so Demi Lovato, she's got a new poster for her upcoming new album.
What's your interest in this?
My interest was just the bizarre story, to be honest. It just seemed like, Demi Lovato poster banned for being offensive to Christians was the headline.
Everything's offensive to Christians.
I mean, if it's offensive to Christians, that gets my attention normally.
Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of the religious.
When they say offensive to Christians in an article, what they mean is it's offensive to a lobby group who've decided that they're offended by it and they're going to write to somebody and moan. That's what they mean.
The poster of Demi Lovato wearing a bondage-style outfit and lying on a crucifix-shaped bed has been banned for causing offence to Christians. Now, why would a Christian be offended at that?
But who's Demi Lovato? Like, there's people.
It doesn't matter who she is. She's a US singer. I think she's US. Very famous, but not famous enough for you to know them.
I mean, I'm pretty down with the kids.
Not really. I don't think it's your kind of music, to be honest.
And what, pray tell, is my kind of music?
Well, obviously not Demi Lovato. anything except. I thought it was just a weird story that, first of all, this is in the news, and secondly, a simple album cover of somebody lying on a crucifix-shaped bed in bondage gear, where you can't see anything. There's nothing offensive.
I don't think there's anything particularly.
I mean, why is that? Why is that outraging Christians? I don't.
One thing that always comes to mind, like when Christians are offended by
Christians not have sex, by the way.
Let me tell you something. I went to a school and a Roman Catholic school, and I was taught by nuns. And one of the main images of Christianity, which you see all the time, is a man nailed to pieces of wood. Now, if that isn't offensive, if that, you can't get any more graphic and disturbing than the image of a man emaciated, nailed to a piece of wood. Now, anything after that, I'm sorry, but the Christians cannot complain about seeing anything disturbing or... Now, whether it's sexual is another matter. There are a lot...
It wasn't a sexual image. It was like really mild bondage gear. This is a cover of an album. It's not going to be anything extreme, is it?
But all the ideas of bondage, submission, and enlightenment through suffering, the letting of blood, the putting on it all comes out of the Christian, not just the Christian, I'd say the Abrahamic religions, because it's all about the shame of the body, and it's all about the idea that of the physical thing, and we need to transcend the physical thing. To be it's almost like saying, to be a pure human being, you've got to destroy the body in some way. And it's like, this is where all our ideas come about, sadomasochism and things like that. They come straight out of stuff that's in the Bible. They're not like whipping and bloody stoning people. And it's like,
stoning is quite offensive, isn't it?
I know they didn't do that for any kind of pleasure, but the thing is, like, if you've seen the Passion of Christ, and you've looked at any imagery, any kind of paintings, religious paintings of Jesus or the suffering of Jesus, you cannot decouple it from this fetishistic kind of thing that the Western culture has built up around it. It's like, now I know Jesus wasn't seen in leather and latex, but if you could paint an image of Jesus in leather and latex or whatever it was, it would look like Elvis. And people, the myth around this idea of the holy figure, and it's like the iconography that this exists in everything we praise in the West, because it is a West thing.
But this story it's a bit like you remember when Madonna did like a prayer that was condemned by Christian organization as being blasphemous. I mean, this is the same thing, and it's now 2023. We've not moved on at all, have we?
I don't know. I mean, it's like I remember when Marilyn Manson was a thing, and it was like, oh, this is so controversial. It's really not. It just plays into exactly the same iconography and religiosity. There's nothing particularly subversive about it,
but all it's going to do is this article will just boost sales for Demi Lovato anyway.
Well, that's it. I think that's what it's always about.
Maybe that's what it's about, really.
Anyway, so like if when they do these ad campaigns now for like certain fashion brands and stuff, you might not notice it, but you see religious iconography all the time, the way that people are posed. You'll see people's hands gestures and things like little things like that. That is the way that Mary would have been depicted in a. They look at art and then they transpose that to advertising all the time. So you
probably do a whole episode on art and religion icons and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I
you could do that on your own, by the way.
This is one of my little hobby things, because I'd studied.
You could. What we'll do, we'll have you on that side, and we'll put Sarah on this side, and you can talk to Sarah during that episode.
So is it just me and Sarah doing the podcast?
Yeah.
So you're fired.
I'm going to take a break for that particular episode, because I know you'll have a lot to say.
This is so yeah, because my hobby in like it's hobby, I say hobby, but I love looking at history of art, and it's what I studied, isn't it? But I like to look at the way images are used. Like I can look at an advertisement thing and I can tell you where that image originates, and it's
I mean,
used
it's a fascinating
nothing in,
subject, really, when you start looking into the reasons why certain images are used. Yeah,
it's like one of my favorite.
the origins of how why that image is important.
You're familiar with the movement Impressionism, yeah? So Edvard Monet, one of the first ever instances of advertising in art goes back to that, because people think Andy Warhol kind of did it with the soup cans and all that, but on the first ever depiction of a modern advertising logo is in Monet, and it's in the bar at the Follies, and you see the woman in the mirror looking at you, and on the bar is the Bass logo, the triangle, and that is the first ever depiction of advertising in art. So it goes way back further than Warhol. That's what I'm saying about. So if you look at it as a lineage of images, they're all connected. There's nothing is in isolation. This wine's not bad, actually.
I'm just wondering what Sarah thinks about your most recent comment there.
It's just more rubbish from me, I think. That's what says I need to pipe down.
Well, that's the end of our topics, Freda. We don't have any more for today. It's been a bit of a quiet week this week in the old
Have you got your Harry
world
book?
of news. My Harry book is in the other room, so no, I don't have him handy. Do you want to read a little passage out of it for
I
us?
was trying to find the bit where he meets the Spice Girls.
Is there any juicy bits you found? I've not started reading it.
It's full of juice.
Do you want to read a little bit?
I'm just
Are we allowed to do that? I think we're allowed to do that in a news reporting way, aren't we?
We're not going to infringe any copyright, are we?
No, I think if you do it as I'm quoting this in a news article way, it will be okay.
You know what? I don't want to read something I've not read.
Yeah, okay.
Because I don't. You know what I mean?
What does it say? Is there anything on the back, like critics and stuff?
It's a nice little picture of him.
There's a picture. Okay. Is there no kind of no one's. What does it say at the beginning, in the preamble?
It was one of the most searing images of the 20th century. Two young boys, two princes, walking behind their mother's coffin, and the world watched in sorrow and horror. As Princess Diana laid to rest, billions wondered what Prince William and Prince Harry must be thinking and feeling, and how their lives would play out from that point on.
So that's where it all starts, really. Well, interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I remember. You remember that day of the funeral when the five. I think there was the five men of the family were kind of walking behind the coffin. It was a very.
I vaguely remember it. I mean,
there was. Yeah, I think it was the five of them.
I remember
Prince Charles, the two boys, and who was the other guy? Was it
Prince William? No,
Prince Philip, I think it was.
Yeah, but the thing is, I remember it being announced on the radio because
I was living in Canada at the time. It was quite a shocking thing,
and it kind of came through the news at first that she died. Not that she died, but that she'd been in an accident, and I was like, oh gosh, she'll be all right. Like bit of a non-story. Car crash, and then it slowly became apparent over the next few hours, and in the morning everybody knew because it happened quite late it was
quite late at night, wasn't it? Yeah. So I guess Harry talks about all that stuff in his book.
Yeah, I think that's the main.
That's kind of where it all started.
Thing for Harry, like I can understand like the way he sees the British press. I'm surprised he's not more angry than he seems. When you think about if you
consider what they've been through,
and he saw it happening to Meghan. So it's kind of a visceral response, really. It's not a rational one.
So yeah, I'm going to enjoy reading the book when I get around to it. I've got a big pile of books I'm supposed to be reading. I'm not sure where it's going to go in the pile at this point.
So we're gonna end on that, or have we got any?
Well, the good news story was the Wales should have gender ID, just like Scotland. I think that was the good news story. The
I don't know.
story was quite a bit of a funny one, and the Demi Lovato one was a bit of an amusing / controversial. But yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening. And we had a bit of a ramble at the end. I think I've had too much of Gary Barlow's wine.
Gary Barlow's wine is having its effects.
It's rubbish. Honestly, it tastes like
you've hardly touched the bottle. It's like
it tastes. I've had half of it. Look at that.
Yeah, okay, all right.
But it tastes like wee. But I'm not going to get any advertising credit from Gary.
No, you're not for that comment. Anyway. So yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Please don't forget to subscribe.
Please come back on the next time, which will be Thursday, I believe.
Thursday.
Well, we need a topic. We need a topic for Freda.
Join us live Thursday.
Have you got a topic in mind?
Me?
Yeah, you. So the topic we had on Thursday night was relationships, sex, and all those kind of things. It was quite a good one, so please have a listen if you'd like to hear our thoughts on transgender people having in relationships and all the kind of complications involved.
Yeah, me embarrassing myself.
You and who?
I said me embarrassing myself.
You embarrassing yourself. I don't think it was embarrassing. I think it was quite informative. It was quite good. I enjoyed that. Anyway, we will say our bye-byes and we will catch you later. Tatty bye.